Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. Good afternoon and welcome to the Los Angeles Public Library's Taper Auditorium for the photo collection's presentation of Vicki Berndt, Rock and Roll. My name is Wendy Horowitz, and I'm an archivist in the photo collection department. And with me as my co-host is Carissa Hahn, adult librarian at the Pio Pico Branch Library. In our photo collections, we have literally millions of prints, slides, negatives, and over 2 million alone just in the Herald Examiner. So one of my jobs is providing the who, what, where, when, and why for each image that's uploaded to our photo database. This means conducting extensive research using primary source materials to ensure every image has an accurate description. Many of these resources, such as the historic telephone directories, newspaper and magazine articles, and geographic materials, are available to the public through the LAPL databases. All you need is a library card to access them. And anyone can access the digitized images on the TESA database from anywhere in the world, so I hope you all enjoy browsing it. And the link for that will be displayed on the last slide in the show. I'd like to quickly acknowledge the LAPL mentorship program, which is how I got to know Carissa and why she's here with us today. As a mentor in the program, it is such a pleasure to share with her my expertise in research, archival best practices, and the organization of the various collections in the photo department. And as the more technically adept, she's been creating our slideshows and social media posts for our programs, and she's assisting with today's presentation. So let me introduce her to you now to tell you about some of her projects, Carissa Hahn.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carissa Hahn, and when I'm not here assisting Wendy, I am the adult librarian at the Pio Pico Koreatown branch. And again, thanks to this Take the Lead mentorship program, I have had the incredibly good fortune of being paired with Wendy over the last 9 months. The level of care and respect that she pours into each collection she works on is something that I deeply admire about her. She approaches each photograph not just as an image, but as a piece of living history, deserving of both accuracy and context. One of Wendy's mandates as the photo archivist is to take the photo collection and ensure that it is accessible for everyone and for the public, ensuring that these histories are not only protected, but shared. And that philosophy deeply resonates with my own work as I am passionate about expanding access to media resources. At my branch, I partner with a local nonprofit called the Echo Park Film Collective, and we provide film resources to our community by hosting monthly programs in our media lab. We focus on analog photography and eco-friendly processing. And that work has made me really appreciative of the bridge between historic photographic practices and evolving sustainable technologies. And each mentorship session with Wendy has reinforced that connection of past and present through photography. And this project today is one such example, because we're going to be encountering images that we all may already recognize, but we're invited to see them with deeper context and care. And whenever Wendy and I would speak about this work, she spoke about Vicki not just as a photographer, but as a dear friend. And you can hear the admiration in every story she told, which I think is why this presentation today is even more meaningful. Because Vicki Berndt's photographs capture more than rock and roll. They capture friendship and community and so many vibrant moments throughout history. So I'm very thrilled to be here with you all today to hear these stories. And I think Wendy's going to introduce our guests.
Thanks, Carissa. I really appreciate those words and sentiments. So now I'd like to introduce our special guests to you today. Okay, so Informed by punk zines and inspired by Asian popular culture, Martin co-founded Giant Robot magazine and edited every issue from 1994 through 2010. From 2013 to 2022, he and his wife, Wendy Lau, organized the Save the Music in Chinatown series of DIY punk shows to raise money for the music program at their child's public school. And Vicki contributed to Giant Robot and was part of the Save the Music in Chinatown community. And Martin still contributes to zines to this day, mostly Razor Cake. Vicki Berndt is a photographer, painter, artisan, and longtime contributor to the California music and arts scene. Her creations combine iconography, vibrant color, warmth, and humor. Today, we'll be treated to a selection of her rock photography, and some of which are being displayed for the very first time. So please join me in welcoming Martin Wong and Vicki Berndt.
They're on. Okay. Don't need to click anything. This is great.
Hello,
Vicki.
Thanks for coming.
So I met Vicki when I was working on Giant Robot, and she actually took photos of for a couple articles. She did Chow Yun Fat, Maggie Cheung. Like, that's the pinnacle of Hong Kong movie stars, right? And just awesome person, photographer. And I did not realize then in the 90s that she had this vast zine and photography background dating back to the 70s. And it's just kind of revealed itself slowly to me as we've been friends since the 90s. And like these pictures, we would go to a concert with her. We'd go see Frank, for example. And we should go say hi to Frank. Wendy, Eloise, and I kind of know Frank. And then we'll get to the front of the line, and she'll go, Vicki! And then I'll find out that Vicki was her babysitter, her kid's babysitter. Or we'll see Alves, and we'll say, we should go hang out with Alves. And then he'll say, Vicki! She painted his first Alves leather jacket. So I'm really excited to dig into these photos with you, with all of us, with all of these friends out here. And wait, I brought something for you. Here, I made a flyer for the show.
Oh my God, thank you so much. If y'all have seen this on Instagram and Facebook, this is a genius flyer. It features me with orange Crayola hair. Thank you.
Okay. So I think before we look at these photos, I'd like to ask, let's just go back to the very beginning and tell us, when did you get into punk rock, like in San Francisco as a kid? How did that happen?
It was even before I was in San Francisco. I was in San Jose, California, which was about an hour away from San Francisco, made it really difficult to get to punk rock shows, especially when you're not old enough to drive. But as soon as I could get myself onto a bus or a BART train, we'd get into San Francisco and see shows there. I would say right around the time that the Sex Pistols played at Winterland.
That was one of your first shows.
That was one of the first shows, but I don't even really consider it the first punk show because it was in a big hall. It was in a big auditorium. To me, punk shows were more like 100 people at the Motörhead Gardens. But right around that time, like late 77, early 78, it was when I was finally old enough to get to the city and see shows playing there.
And when did you start taking photos of punk bands?
My grandfather gave me a camera in junior year of high school. So I did my photo assignments in, high school photo class, but started taking it to punk rock shows, which is what I was really interested in, taking pictures of. And
you were taking classes in school,
Yeah.
photography classes, and you just kind of fine-tune your skills in these dark rooms with people moving and terrible natural light.
Yes. Yeah, I would say it was probably 15 or 20 years before I actually had a flash for my camera. So I was using available light and teaching myself how to push black and white film to a higher ASA. You know, like Tri-X pushed from 400 to 800 to 1600. So that gets kind of grainy, but
I believe you had all the chemicals and all that toxic stuff, like just in a bathroom in your house.
yeah, actually in the kitchen. I would usually process film in the kitchen. Load the film onto reels in the closet in the bedroom because it was dark enough, and then process in the kitchen.
And when did you start getting involved in zines?
Very early on in San Francisco, there were these girls called the Teen Reporters, and they put out a zine called Teen Report, which I was just like, oh my God, you can do this? And I met them, and I thought they were so cool, and then they let me take pictures for their zine. And then, along with a few other friends of mine, we started our own fanzine called Idol Worship.
Is that IDLE or IDOL?
IDOL.
Oh,
But both work. And our thing was kind of to take the very serious punk rock and make it a little bit goofy and Tiger Beat teen magazine style again. We called ourselves the home of Lucy and Ethel journalism because we were sneaking in the back door or talking our way in, and we weren't old enough to get in the club, so we were Lucy and Ethel getting in.
and you're still kind of Lucy.
Yeah, I am now.
Well, let's look at some of these pictures.
Okay.
Let's start.
Okay,
We have a magic wand up here.
let's see if I can drive. Oops.
Oh, so that,
This photo, the one at the top, the black and white, is me photographing Johnny Ramone in 1979. And it's by photographer Michael Jang in San Francisco. And he published this, it's published in a Ramones book from Germany. So he put it up on his Instagram, showing that it was in this Ramones book, and people kept sending it to me going, Vicki, this is you. And I think this is the week I graduated high school. And I had never seen this photograph. I had no idea this guy took this photo. And then in, I think, 2018, it turned up on Instagram. So I contacted him, and I was like, oh my God, this is me. Amazing. And so the color photos of the Ramones, or the faded color photos, those are the photos I was taking that day. So I sent those to him, and I was like, this is what I was doing when you were taking my picture. And he was completely amused by that. And I used the original, like, photomat prints with the rounded corners on the pearl paper, as these are the ones I actually got printed the next day.
so was that pretty early on in your photographic journey?
Yeah, this would have been within the first year of me even having a camera.
Yeah, because later on I feel like not a lot of color, not a lot of photomat, and this is, this is, I don't want to say knuckle dragging Vicki. This is Vicki 1.0.
Exactly. Yeah. This is me not showing up to my high school graduation because the Ramones were playing a free show in San Francisco Civic Center.
I think everyone in this room applauds you on that decision. You were an adult at that point.
Yeah, I was making my own decisions. And this is a good Lucy and Ethel moment here. There was about 5 or 6 of us, came to San Francisco the night before and slept in the park so that we could be at the front of the stage.
You're in the front row.
Oh, yeah.
Your whole crew.
Oh, yes, all of us.
Nice. Okay. We could talk about the Ramones all day, but
yeah,
the Buzzcocks.
This is the Buzzcocks in '79 at the Temple Beautiful in San Francisco, and it was so hot in there. Pete Shelley just sat down on the floor and kind of stayed there for a while.
So he's not tuning or something. He's actually playing the show here.
Oh yeah, this is I can't remember what song, obviously, but during the set. But I just like this photograph a lot because it's not the typical shot you would expect to see. And he's sitting on the floor.
Yeah, not a rock star pose.
No, not at all.
Yeah, they still have shows, I think. Oh, is that Chip?
That's Chip Kinman.
Chip Kinman.
The Dills, again at Temple Beautiful. There was lighting at this venue, so a lot of my pictures are from here. Some of the venues, like the Deaf Club or somewhere, had just no lighting, which was almost impossible for me to take.
Which is funny, because it's the Deaf Club. It's not the Blind Club.
Exactly.
So people still want to see the band, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about these venues back then, like Temple Beautiful? I know they still have shows. Deaf Club is no longer, but that was a actual deaf club, right, for deaf people.
Yeah, and they were totally fine with renting out the back half of their main room to us to have well, not us in particular, but to people to put on punk rock shows because it didn't bother them. The noise was not a problem. So the bands could be playing full on, people jumping around all crazy, and they would be the actual club members, the deaf club, clientele would be at the back at the bar playing cards or talking.
They'd having conversations.
Conversations. We didn't bother them at all, and
I love that these different subcultures and of underdogs like get together in that one space. I think that's the coolest. I love stuff like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
man, the Dills were a San Francisco band, and a Carlsbad band, and an LA band, and a Victoria, BC band, but they're the greatest. I'm glad you have young Chip Kinman here.
Yeah, I've got a couple it's not all early San Francisco photos, but I tried to represent. This is Ricky Williams from the Sleepers, and I wanted to include, it's not the most dynamic photograph, but I wanted to include them because I really loved them. They were an amazing band that I still think don't get that much recognition.
In San Francisco, are they kind of a cult band, or is it just they didn't record and no one knows?
They recorded early on an EP, like a 7-inch EP, that of course, everybody had a copy in San Francisco, in our scene. But
don't sleep on the Sleepers, is what she's saying.
Exactly. Yeah, check them out. I think
not too late.
Later on, they recorded, I believe, maybe an album, but I'm not sure. But I still have my EP. And a lot of the other band members in Sleepers ended up in, I think, Toiling Midgets and maybe some, I don't have the whole history.
We should mention that Vicki was in a band also before she took photos. They were called the Maggots, and there's a 7-inch. And can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was in the punk band. They asked me to be their singer, and I was thrilled, like, oh, wow, I get to participate in this. So I loved being in the band and being the singer and, getting our songs organized and in order and such. But then we played a live show, and I was terrified, and I was like, oh, no, I don't want to do this. So it was fun rehearsing in our, Jane, our drummer's basement, and that was great. But the actually showing up to play the show, I was not. No. So that's when I really started concentrating more on photography. Like, this is how I can participate in this scene and be part of it and contribute and show up. And so photography was a lot easier to, document things happening, not be the.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things about punk rock is that, you could do it yourself and be in a band, but also you can make your own media, you can take your own pictures, set up your own tours, whatever. So that DIY aspect is not limited to the stage.
Yeah, taking pictures and then putting together fanzines was the next, step with friends of mine, Lynn and Sue and Devora. That was our main crew to start with. Later I did a fanzine called Beano with my friend Johnny. And there was another fanzine called Rave Up. Teenage Kicks. Those are some fanzines in San Francisco that I contributed photos to.
So some of these photos were in those stapled and folded photocopied zines,
Yeah.
and others have just been in your archives for decades.
Yeah, tons of this has never been, or just shot the film, made the proof sheet, put in a folder. And it's been the last few months going through getting ready to do this, that I've been pulling things out and scanning them and getting them ready to show to people.
What's next?
This is another San Francisco band, B Team. This is Todd Stadman, the singer, bass player. Again, they put out an EP and then later, I believe, an album. But another great San Francisco band that I think doesn't get enough, attention nowadays.
It's a great shot. I like the back's kind of side lit. Mm-hmm. How many shots on your rolls were wasted versus good? Like,
I'll tell you, especially back in the early days, because a roll of film was like $2.39. And if I didn't have a roll for each band that I was seeing, I would shoot like 12 photos of one band and 12 photos
you
of
mean
the next band.
$2.39 being expensive?
Yes.
Okay, just
Yes.
clarifying that for everyone.
Yeah, like, well, I have $5 and I'm going to spend $2.39 on the film. That leaves me $2.60 for food and bus. It was kind of like, so I would shoot like maybe like 10 images or something. And then some of them were like more a traditional rock band looking photograph. And then some of them would turn out like this just by chance. And these are the ones that really kept my attention, or these are the things I'm most interested in capturing and showing, not a standard rock pose.
Did you always shoot black and white?
At first, yeah. Well, that Ramones show, I shot that roll of color because it was outdoors and there was plenty of light.
Yeah.
Okay. This is XTC.
They
And
did not tour at all, like
Yeah.
hardly.
This was very early. I don't know the dates. This was 1980. This might have been the last time they came around. They stopped touring, but they were a great live band. But again, this is a shot that's not necessarily in focus. Like the guy in the foreground is not in focus at all, and blurry because he's moving. But this to me is the more interesting shot than everything's sharp, everybody's in focus.
Yeah, you got your foreground and background and
Yeah.
tons of energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You make XTC look super rockin', and they're pretty psychedelic, you know? Oh, wow. Is that the Slits?
Yeah, this is the Slits. And I think they played 3 or 4 shows in San Francisco. And they were amazing. They were so inspiring. They didn't play like anybody else. You can tell they just made it up and did it the way they wanted to. They didn't sound like anyone else. Very inspiring. They looked really cool. You could talk to, they were happy to talk to you. We went up with our fanzine. Excuse me, could you talk to us for our fanzine? Can I take your picture? Because we were still kids, and they were totally sweet to us. Yeah, they were great. We went to every show they played in Northern California.
Wow.
Yeah. And then again, they didn't come around again for, 30 years or something.
That's the Violent Femmes?
That's the Violent Femmes at the On Broadway.
Okay, so this is suddenly like a bigger show. Was this for zine also, or was it?
Yeah, this was for a zine, the Beano, that I did, again with my friend Johnny. Oh, hey!
Is that Johnny Whiteside? Nice.
Johnny Whiteside.
Nice. He puts on good shows.
There are more acceptable shots from this very same setup at the back of the On Broadway, where they're all looking, cool and rock star and everything. But then the guy picked up the glass and smashed his face against it. And this is the one that to me is more amusing. So, like if somebody needed a more traditional shot, I had it. But this is the one
It's funny because down here, a band like the Violent Femmes got really big really fast because of K-Rock. And you almost forget that they were like just a small band on Slash, you know,
Yeah.
cruising around, playing small shows, talking to zines.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that.
This is the Ramones at Santa Cruz Civic Auditorium. And again, I think this is also 1980.
It's like Pleasant Dreams, maybe, or
Oh, I don't remember.
Subtrain.
I would have to. Most of my sheets of negatives and proof sheets and stuff, I didn't date them at the time or even put the location. I had to go through in the last few weeks and look all this up online, try to figure out when I took pictures.
Did you actually shoot it cropped like that? That is amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
everything in all of these are full frame negative, meaning this is the whole frame.
And their hair looks perfect. From
Of
that,
course.
the lighting and everything.
Of
That's
course.
it's incredible.
And this show was in Santa Cruz, which is sort of 2 hours south of where we all lived. And somebody had a car, so we could get to Santa Cruz, but nobody had money for tickets. So we had this genius idea to get to the show really early, like noon, and go into the venue and hide, which worked because here we are. But we went into, because the doors are wide open, because who's going to come around at lunchtime? And there was a crawl space in the ceiling of the ladies' room. So we pulled the trash can under it and climbed up on the trash can and moved the grate aside to get up into the ceiling.
Hold the mic up so they can
Oh,
see.
sorry. Yeah, so we all climbed up into the ceiling and then put the grate back so you couldn't tell we were in there. And then when the doors, there's like 6 of us. So we probably saved $30 by not buying tickets. But when we could hear the venue had opened and people were running into the hall, then we all jumped out of the ceiling and ran, and which made all the girls in the bathroom scream. But then we just ran into the crowd, so they couldn't find us.
I'm the #1 fan. No, I'm the #1 fan.
Exactly. So that's a good Lucy and Ethel story for, by this time we were mostly old enough to get in, but we didn't have any money. But then I brought my camera and I had a roll of film. So
I'm glad you didn't drop them in the toilet.
Exactly. Okay, let's see. This is The Clash. They played a lot of shows in San Francisco, and they were a great live band. I chose this shot because it's Joe Strummer, but he's playing Paul Simonon bass, which is just kind of cool. It was one of the shows they played at the Warfield, but I don't remember. They played like 3 nights.
It's kind of. Did you see Stranger Things? That last episode where Nancy says she admits that she didn't like the Clash? That really bothered me. I'm like, man, I used to like that character. And she doesn't like it changed everything. I'm like, wow, I don't like her anymore.
But did she tell you who she does like? That would really cement the deal.
Probably U2 or something. I don't,
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure. But
She's finished.
But the Clash are another one of those bands where they were so awesome. They were so incredibly awesome.
Yeah.
And they should be in the punk slideshow. And I know people out there think they're Rock the Casbah and all that, but they're so good.
Yeah.
They're so important.
And a great live band, especially.
Yeah, and then Crucifix. There's Sothira, like staring us down. I love this.
Mm-hmm. This is the beginning, Crucifix, early Crucifix. Probably, I would guess, maybe their first photos, because I knew them. So Thera asked me if I could take pictures of him and his band. So we're just out on Van Ness. That's front of Davies Concert Hall in San Francisco.
I got to interview them for Giant Robot later on.
Oh, cool.
And Sothira was so cool.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy.
So full of energy. And like his songs are so dark. But he's like a really positive guy, just like bounding around, like full of energy. And you think he's bending towards you, but he's actually that tall. Until he has Liberty Spikes, then he's that tall. So anyway, I love Crucifix.
Yeah, and this shot I like because it shows Sothira's energy. Okay. This was another fanzine photo shoot, you know. We did an interview, talked to Captain.
This would be
And
Captain Sensible from The Damned for
Yeah.
people under 13 here.
And totally accommodating and nice. And, you know, will you talk to us for our fanzine? Sure, come on in. Oh, you want to take some pictures? How about this? You know,
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is like not on stage. This is just hanging out backstage or something,
yeah,
right?
yeah, in a room at the back of the old Waldorf in San Francisco.
Yeah, and that's just what he wears.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's from the same day. Again, Dave Vanian.
And
Just available light, you know, the light in the room. And I stood up on the coffee table so he could tilt his head up a little bit towards the overhead light.
so were you intimidated at all, meeting people like The Damned, or, you know?
Yeah, yeah. But then once you got to sort of get what you came there for, and they were nice and happy to talk to you and, you know, polite, not scary, then you could kind of relax and go, oh, okay. Like, they're cool. Let's take some pictures.
I think they're excited to be in the U.S. also.
Yeah. I think sometimes by the time, if bands started in New York, by the time they got all the way to California, they were kind of worn out and a little bit tired and maybe had too much to drink for like a month or something and just living in the van for too long.
I love how untheatrical he looks, though. Because usually when you see him, you know, it's flowy sleeves and...
Oh, wait,
you know,
wait.
Oh,
Whoops. Like that.
there we go. The Alone Again Or era.
Yeah. This is in the UK in Birmingham.
Okay,
To see them.
so you interviewed them in San Francisco, but then somehow you met them back in the UK. Tell us about that trip.
Yeah, there was a band from San Francisco called Beast, who they were opening this tour in the UK for the Damned. So I went because I knew Beast from San Francisco. So I went to this show and I photographed Beast and then the Damned. But Brian Gregory from the Cramps was in Beast. It was his band, I think. But he didn't show up for this tour in the UK. He just didn't get on the airplane and go, which Beast still showed up and played the shows. But Dave Vanian was trying to get me to sort of, maybe I would tell him what really happened, because apparently nobody would tell him why Brian Gregory wasn't there. The band was there, and he wasn't getting the answers he wanted, so he was trying to talk. He was like, oh, I know you from San Francisco. Here, come in here, sit down, let's talk. And so I was kind of trying to tell him what I thought had happened, but he kept giving me drinks, and I'm not really a drinker, and he kept giving more don't be shy, drink up, and filling up my cup, and I was like, and drinking, oh, wow, okay, Dave Vanian remembers me, oh, he's nice, and then drinking too much. And this shot, I have no idea how I managed this, because I had way too much to drink. And if you look at the proof sheet, it's a mess. Somehow I'd opened the camera back, and there's all light flares everywhere, and it's a mess, and nothing's in focus. And then I was like, oh. And this is maybe the best live picture I've taken of them.
It looks like it's a total Lost Weekend shot. It's great.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a long roundabout story of how I happened to take that picture. But then also how nice they all are. You would be maybe intimidated by these people, and then they're just charming and nice, friendly.
Wendy and I named our kid after a Damned song, Eloise.
Eloise, that's so cool. This is Cyril Jordan from the Flamin' Groovies at his house in San Francisco. Again, another thing for a fanzine. And his apartment was amazing, or it was a house, I think, just full of cool stuff and collectibles and toys and Mad Magazine stuff. I used to see him when I was a kid walking around in San Francisco, dressed like that in his full 60s mod, and that's like purple suit, and his cool little glasses and pointy beetle boot shoes. And I'd see him coming up the street, I'd be like, oh my God, who is that guy? I had no idea. I didn't know Flamin' Groovies. I was just like, whoa, that guy's cool. So then I got to go take pictures of him at his house. I was really pleased to finally
So
get to meet
was
him.
that like he needed portraits or he just wanted pictures?
It was for a fanzine interview. For the Flamin' Groovies had reformed with some of the guys from the Charlatans, another 60s
Yeah.
San Francisco band, and
Not
they were playing
the-
live shows.
Not the UK Charlatans band.
No. Whole other universe. But anyway, I love this shot, and he was cool.
HR.
HR from the...
Not doing a backflip
Exactly.
with his shirt on.
Yeah, and slacks.
Yeah, looking good.
And the shirt, nice, clean, white press shirt, nice slacks. I just like these because they're so contrary to how you would picture him.
So this must have been for a fanzine also. Mm-hmm. Were you there for the interview part, or do you just meet him afterwards?
No, I would be there for the interview part, but that wasn't really I rarely did the interviews, so I don't really remember a lot about. Sometimes I would remember what was being spoken about or talked about, but mostly I was there just to take the pictures.
You're just like looking for a place with good light.
Exactly. Somewhere with some light, yeah, to make it look like we're not just in a room with, yeah.
Well, you got good light. Do you remember anything about HR back then? Because he's kind of like this famously volatile dude.
He was low-key. I don't remember anything. Polite, totally happy to sit there
Yeah.
for me and take some nice pictures.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Did we not say that?
oh, it's HR from Bad Brains. Yeah, if everyone couldn't hear.
Thank you.
That's like the reggae side where he's singing "Walking Down the Street," like trying not to get in fights. That's that HR.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, now we're jumping up.
Yeah.
More recent or current. Well, now it's old, but
Yeah.
stuff like when I was growing up, like they were coming up. Yeah.
This was 1990. I believe they're the holes.
There were the holes then.
The holes.
Yeah.
This was Hole's first photo shoot, I believe. And I knew Courtney from San Francisco, which is how I came to. They asked me to take the photos for them. I think it was for a Sympathy 7-inch single. And
Can you talk about? I feel like you were roommates with Courtney, or you were friends with. She was friends with a roommate of yours, or what was it?
yeah, she was very good friends with a couple of good friends of mine, and she did come and stay at the flat that I lived. She stayed at our flat, basically. I just knew her. She wasn't my bestie. But she would come and stay with us, and she was just like this kind of notorious girl from Portland that everybody seemed to know. And you would hear just crazy stories about her, and they all were kind of true. But again, a really compelling person and really fascinating to talk to. She's both were like the best kind of person and maybe the worst kind of person from day to day. But yeah.
Did you mention? I feel like backstage, in the very glamorous green room back there, we were talking about Courtney Levin libraries.
Yeah, this is when I first moved to Los Angeles. It's about the same time she moved to LA. And I used to run into her at the library, at the Cahuenga branch. And I was like, nobody else I knew went to the library. And I was just like, she's cool. She reads. I see her at the library. So she's a cool person.
Yeah, it used to be at Jabberjaw all the time. Mm-hmm. Raji's, all those places.
I did a lot of photos with them, and she was great to work with because she knew exactly what she wanted them to look like. She was like the art director and the singer. But she had great ideas, and she was always right.
So she told like Eric how to face his the portrait,
Yeah, you'll see in all the early Hole photos, Eric does that same pose. And she was right, though.
Yeah.
Look at
those cheekbones.
He always looks great. And she would be like, no, Eric, this. And we'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, great. But she was right, so she knew what she was talking about.
Now, this film is really interesting that you used, the film stock.
Yeah, this was for the Hole's first album. And I had been doing tests with this film. It's a medical infrared film, color infrared. And it was used for medical applications, in the 60s. It's a Kodak film. But then there's a few 60s album covers where photographers use this. There's a Black Sabbath album. There's a Jimi Hendrix album. Those are the two I can think of right now. So I talked to Courtney about, let's see if we can find this film. I'm going to do we did tests on it to make sure everybody looked, good, because it also can make people look horrible. So we did tests, and it looked great. So we did this photo shoot in her backyard with this medical color infrared film.
So at this point, these photos, they're being taken for records and stuff, but they're still like working with friends at this point, right? But it's just suddenly your bands that are friends have a budget now.
Exactly. In some of the photos we'll get to in a minute too, also, there are people that I knew from San Francisco who were suddenly doing really well and were still, calling me to take pictures. So as my friends kind of were lifting up, they were kind of taking me up with them.
And when did you move down to LA? What was the...
I think 1988.
Because people from the Bay Area generally hate LA, but then they move down here. So I'm wondering what your story is.
Well, I worked at a punk rock store called Nana's in San Francisco and in New York, and then they had a store in LA. So if I moved to LA, I would have a job. Yeah. And then I could take more pictures. There's more bands to take pictures of here. And so I was like, okay, I'll move to LA. And it worked out. I got to take way more pictures and actually get paid to do it. So it was a good move.
Yeah, and I think working at Nana, like you kind of fell into like a crowd of interesting people in LA right away.
Yeah, I was really lucky. And friends of mine that, like Courtney, had moved here at the same time, and then people that I had met through, like Frightwig. Well, Frightwig's coming up in a minute here, but Frightwig knew Red Cross and introduced me to them. So I knew Red Cross, and their whole circle of friends was a great bunch of people that
L7 and the Muffs.
Yeah, and then L7 and then the Muffs. I met through friends of friends of friends. So not long after I was here, I knew a big circle of people. And then they all seemed to need photographs.
Probably everyone who practiced at the NASPAD, probably.
Yes, exactly. Okay. This is Jane County. From, she's a New York punk artist. She was Wayne County in the early days and then became Jane County. She was also very big part of the scene in London in the early punk days. If you see old punk rock films, I think there's a Don Letts film that she's featured in. But I just love this shot. And she's really cool. She was in Rock Scene magazine all the time, and she had cut out the letters spelling out Dave Clark 5 and stuck them in her wig, which to me, when I was a kid, I thought that was just genius. So I just always loved her.
Where was that shot?
I think it was at the Berkeley Square in Northern California. I don't know. I spent a long time trying to figure this out. I don't remember. I probably saw her play 4 or 5 times, but I'm not sure. This is the Undertones. They get 4 photos because they're my favorites. And in the early days of fanzine, of our fanzine Idol Worship, we saw them play in San Francisco, I think maybe 3 or 4 shows, and we were just so like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. We love the Undertones. So Sue, one of the fanzine writers, she got her mother's car because her mother was out of town, and her mother's gas card. And we drove to Los Angeles to see them play like 6 more shows or 7 more shows, something like that. So we followed them all around California in Sue's mother's car, and we had $11 and a gas card.
And a jug of pennies.
Yeah, that was the $11. We have $11 of pennies in that jug. I sat in the back seat and rolled all the pennies into paper tubes so we could take them to the bank and get dollar bills.
We went to Palo Alto to see them, and the next morning we were just like, if we don't see them in San Diego, we're never going to see them again.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Lucy and Ethel stole a car and drove to Southern California. And
Sue had to tell her mother because she was using the gas card, and Mom was going to find out anyway.
but we paid her mother back. Yes, we did. Oh, I remember.
But wait, what about them feeling? Okay, wait. There's more
Okay.
Undertones pictures.
Okay, yeah, well, this is Fergal the singer and Mickey Bradley, our benefactor.
Yeah, and you were right. You would never see them again because Fergal left, right? So you
Yeah.
made the right choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy on the right, he lent us $36 because he felt so sorry for us, and we paid him back. We got a money order for, Irish pound or whatever it was, and we paid him back.
Did you say that they actually felt so sorry for you? They'd invite you to the club so you can eat their junk food or
Yeah,
weird
we all
stuff?
got lanyards so we can go backstage and eat the deli tray food. They were very, very kind to us and very amused by us. They thought and they loved Sue's mother's car because it was like a 60s Rambler. So we drove them around in their, they called it what's that movie? Like some, anyway, they had seen a similar car in a movie. So they were thrilled to drive around in Sue's mother's car.
The American Dream.
American Graffiti.
American Graffiti?
They kept calling it American Graffiti car. So we drove them around San Diego.
Sounds like a good cultural trade.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then they played 6 shows at the Whiskey.
Wow.
So we went to all of those. So we got to see them, I believe it was 11 times total. So it was worth it. And they're lovely people.
Did someone get busted when Mom came back or no?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sue had to own up. But again, we paid everything back. Everybody got paid back. I don't think her mom was that upset.
Who doesn't like the Undertones? Everyone loves the Undertones.
They better.
Yeah.
Don't tell me about some girl in Stranger Things doesn't like the Undertones. I will call her out.
I don't know. If someone could wear a fall shirt, Undertones are like a million times, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. More likable.
Permanent green light. And I photographed them quite a bit. And the reason I use this particular shot is it's with like a $12 plastic camera. And, it's not the sharpest or whatever of all the shots that we did that, the record company would want or a magazine would run. But it's one of my favorites because it's unusual. There's like a light flare up in the corner. It's technically bad, but one of my favorites because it's that kind of random accident that happens in camera. Because now, Photoshop and all, you can make anything happen to any photo you want. But back then, I was trying to do stuff in the camera. Like use a $12 toy camera. Or like that color infrared medical film. Stuff like that. I was trying to get some kind of different look, different effect. Not have it look like everything else.
It's funny because it's like this cheap plastic camera. Like, is it a Holga or something?
It's a Holga.
But then,
yeah.
But then it's shaped like an expensive medium format,
Exactly. So nobody knows that you're using a toy camera until they get really up close. Hey, wait a minute.
Did you ever shoot the 3 o'clock too?
No. That was before I was in Los Angeles.
Well, by the time you got here, they were already on Paisley Park, and
Yeah.
maybe their clothes weren't as cool then. So
Okay. And also lovely people and really nice to work with.
yes,
Yeah.
underrated.
That's Pat Smear. This is before
So this is when he's working at the SST store or something,
Oh.
before the Nirvana, or
After this is 1996.
BAM,
Thank
BAM
you.
magazine?
For BAM magazine, and give me a second.
This looks like someone's apartment or something.
This is my living room, the place I lived on Hoover Street, and I did this just on the living room floor. That's why I left the the little plug in the wall thing to kind of show. And this is a Hagstrom, I think is the name of the guitars. He was in love with these guitars and just couldn't, that's all he wanted to talk about, and so he wanted to be photographed with it. So we did all these photos with these guitars that he loves.
You can see his foot that's currently messed up.
Exactly. And again, totally nice, charming person, fun to work with, totally agreeable, good ideas to work with,
And you were totally familiar with like the Germs and all that stuff.
I knew of the Germs, but they were not my.
I guess there was no YouTube then, you know, like you have the record, but you wouldn't. The biopic wasn't out yet. I don't know.
You know, what I knew about the Germs was people would come up from LA and, you know, want to show you that they had burned their arms with a cigarette because they were into the Germs. I was like, oh, wow, cool. And then, but I had never seen them. I couldn't judge them. I just thought, wow, these people are really into it. And then Darby came to San Francisco to play a show. I think it was like a solo show at the Victoria Theater in the Mission. So I went to that to see, oh, well, what is this? What's going, you know, what's this all about? And it was, I don't think it was quite the same.
He might have been in his Adam and the Ants phase by then.
I almost said that, and I thought, well, that's kind of rude. That's cool. He's into it. But yeah, anyway.
Cool. Everyone loves Pat Smear.
This is Ozzo Motley, and these guys were great, and everybody had told me, oh, they're awful to work with, there's too many of them, you won't get them all in focus, they hate you, they don't like pictures, and I was going like, oh, this is going to be a bad day at work. Oh, no. They were delightful. They were happy. We had to climb halfway up a hill in Griffith Park at the old zoo to get and do this, and they were great. And I managed to get them all in focus because using that grid of that old animal cage, some guys up high, some guys in the middle, some, you know what I mean? So there you go. Don't listen to what people
So we've kind of transitioned here from like zine or friends to zines, and this is like a professional gig.
Yeah, now I'm working this is for BAM magazine. This was a cover for BAM magazine. And also you can see the square negative. That means now I have a medium format camera.
So that means you had to lug that thing up the hill.
Yes, and this kind of camera you need a tripod, and yeah.
But you had 8 people to help you.
You know, they seem like the kind of people that would have offered to help me with my equipment cases up the hill. I don't remember. I had a photo assistant, but they would have. I'm sure if they didn't, I don't remember.
They're supposed to be cool dudes.
They're very cool dudes. And their manager, whoever I was talking to on the phone, was telling me how awful they were and that it was going to be terrible. Yeah, they hate you. Not me. Anyway, the photo turned out great. That's why this is here.
And you'd take more shots at the zoo later on. Well, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, at the
old zoo.
Yeah.
The nymphs?
This is the nymphs. And again, lovely people, and Ingrid Laurie, so enthusiastic and happy to be there and do the, you know, and then so appreciative of the photos. And yeah, lovely. And I love people that will pose for me, you know, or back, you know, like some people just stand there like, oh, I hate doing this. I love the people that would just serve it up for you. Look at her. She's like, there's my light. You know, thank you.
You know, people say like the 90s are back, but there's this whole generation of bands, you know, like I think them and the Hangmen, and I don't know, there were a lot of like cool rock bands that we thought were going to be huge then, and they kind of came and left, and no one talks about them. And
Yeah.
I guess maybe TikTok will discover them or something. I don't know.
Stuff seems to come back, like in a circle or in a cycle, or I don't know, like after 20 years, people are like have a nostalgia, like, oh my God, remember that?
Yeah, but the nymphs were great.
Yeah.
Glad you have that photo.
This was hilarious. This was such a good day at work. This is Moog Cookbook, or Moog Cookbook if you're being polite. But this was at the beach in Malibu with some black and white infrared film. And they're just in their space costumes coming out of the ocean with their guitars.
I think Mo
One more-
Cookbook is another band that most people aren't familiar with.
Yeah, I would highly recommend getting their CDs. They are hilarious. They did like synthesizer covers of classic rock and like 90s rock hits like Soundgarden or somebody. So good. Or I think there's a Nirvana cover. They're so good. They're the best thing to have if you're making a mixtape of like song, 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 song. What is that? like, because it's like Black Hole Sun, but it's like like synthesizer noises and stuff. It like stops the party. Like,
No,
like whoa.
I
And
get
then
it.
You can go back to what you were going to put on your.
Yeah, because people make lounge and Tropicalia versions of punk songs and stuff, but
Yeah.
Moog is like the next step. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And great visuals, and people are walking their dogs on Malibu Beach and walking by like, oh yeah, spacemen in the water.
That's
Okay.
because they're millionaires. They can't,
Yeah.
they can't look shocked.
No, this happens all the time, I'm sure, on the beach. This is the Miracle Workers, and again, a great band to work with. And this was their idea to go to the loaded sign at the side of the freeway.
They were kind of like post-psychedelic rock,
Garage.
pretty heavy, garagey.
Yeah. And again, great ideas and really enthusiastic about the photos. And
So did you pull over on the side of the freeway, or or did you climb a fence? What did you do here?
no, we just pulled over to the side of the road and ran over there real fast. I kept thinking, oh, we're going to get arrested. Not that this is illegal, but
What time of day was this? Like not rush hour.
no, I don't remember. Afternoon. This is regular black and white film, but with a red filter on it to make the sky kind of black, because I didn't want the sky to just, during the day, it would have been just a white sky. It wouldn't have had that tone to it. So, and it makes people, you can see like the fill in the front skin a red filter will clear up some skin really nicely. So it makes people's skin look really good.
Rosie.
Yes.
Back to the Kinmans.
Yeah.
Chip and Tony.
This is when they were Blackbird. And this is in my studio in Santa Monica.
So for those out there who are not familiar, they were in the punk band The Dills. Then they were in the country punk band Rank and File. And this followed, which is like their industrial drum machine sort of band, Blackbird.
Yes. And this was not for anything in particular. I just asked them if they would come to the studio so I could do portraits of them. Because I'd been huge fans of them. Chip Kinman was one of the first photos in this show, back at the beginning of maybe the third slide.
Yeah.
In the Dills playing at Temple Beautiful. So I was happy to be able to shoot them in my studio. This is Fright Wig in a hallway at the Fillmore in San Francisco. And Rebecca was one of my roommates at the flat in San Francisco, one of the people I knew because we were roommates.
And is this like your closet? What is this?
Yeah, this is actually a hallway. They were opening for Red Cross at the Fillmore in San Francisco, so this is just a hallway in the backstage.
And is that how they dressed all the time? Kind
Oh,
of?
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. That might be even a little bit toned down for Rebecca. Maybe she wasn't dressed yet for the stage.
We've
That
been
might-
seeing them a lot lately. They're great.
Yeah, oh, they're amazing.
So good
Yeah.
still.
The Go-Go's. just out in the parking lot behind my studio in Santa Monica. That was an honor to be able to work with them. That was just, and again, they're professionals. They ready to work, you know, making the pose, making the shape, giving the best angle, no bad photos all day with them. They're great.
So this is when they got back together for Beyond the Valley?
I think, yeah, 94?
Yeah. That was such a big deal. It was so great to have the Go-Go's back in this town, right?
1994,
Like,
yeah. Yeah, that was an honor to be able to do that.
and then were you already knew Red Cross by then,
Yeah.
but maybe they weren't a thing yet.
Red Cross?
No, Go-Go's and Red Cross.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
They were by this time, yes.
Okay, because
Weren't they? I don't know. Somebody.
spoiler alert, members of each band, some of them are married, so.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, they were already married because I knew Charlotte. So it has to be because they were married. That's how I met Charlotte.
That's great. I love how they're all sitting close to each other. Mm-hmm. They're not like bandmates.
No, no, it was not that at all. Okay, let's see. That's Corla Pandit. And I love this shot. He was so good to work with.
Vicky's been showing me Corla Pandit videos, because all I knew was the Muffs record that he plays on. But his TV show was incredible.
Yeah, he had, I think it was in the 50s in Los Angeles, he had like a 15-minute television show every afternoon, black and white, where he would play the keyboard and, KTLA or...
So what was it like
Station.
after watching him on TV or VHS, or what was it like to meet him in person?
It was kind of, I was just in awe. And I was like, oh my God. And he was very much his character. He was very much being Corla Pandit for probably everybody he met. But he put a little circle of protective light around me when we met and blessed me and, protected me. And he was fully committed to being Corla Pandit for everybody.
Was there like incense in the room and
No, it was at Brian Kehue's house, so he didn't bring his own incense. But the first time I met him, but he was lovely. He was really nice. And then again, I was fortunate enough to get to do these photos.
What was this shot for?
I don't remember. It was something Brian Kehue, I think, was producing him or recording something for him, working with him, and Brian Kehue asked me to do the photos. I don't recall what for. I don't know. Again, that would be more research. I could probably call Brian and ask him, but
It's okay.
okay. Faith No More, they were friends of mine from San Francisco. Again, that connection of people that you knew, and then they started doing really well, and then they had me do photos for them because suddenly there's a budget for that. And I knew Roddy from San Francisco and Mike Borden, the drummer. We worked together in a bakery in San Francisco. That's how I knew him. And I was in my little work area decorating cakes in the bakery, and I was listening to Black Sabbath. And Mike Borden walked over, and he's, oh, hi, I just got a job here. You're listening to Black Sabbath. And I was like, yeah. So we started talking about music and Black Sabbath, and we became friends. And I knew Roddy because he was dating Courtney. And anyway, so then they started doing really well, and I got to photograph them.
Did she sing for them for a second or try out or something?
She sang for them maybe once or twice or something. I don't really recall, but I don't know that she was exactly what they were looking for in a singer.
I think people outside San Francisco don't think about Faith No More as being this band with deep, deep roots in San Francisco punk and playing with Flipper and like all those old bands, and being very DIY and super arty and weird.
Like they were like a droney art band to start, if that's, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but yeah. They were not like a, rock band.
No one would have thought that they'd tour with Guns N' Roses and Metallica. Like no one ever would have dreamed that.
Especially not them.
Yeah. So it's just surreal that something like that, they're like San Francisco's Nirvana, someone told me once.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. Like, how could that happen?
But good for them. Amazing, right?
Yeah, incredible band.
And then this is Imperial Teen, and that's Roddy again. This is a band he did besides Faith No More. This is kind of his own project with his friends in San Francisco.
What, they were more like power pop or?
Yeah, they're like a quirky poppy band, really catchy songs. They're all amazing songwriters.
I think I saw them play with Red Cross. Maybe?
Probably.
I don't know.
Yeah. And
Tell us about the aesthetics of this shot and everything, because it's
Yeah.
very designed.
this is Roddy is a genius at sort of art directing and designing the colors and the photos. He always knows exactly what he wants it to look like. Like he's the full package presenter with that sort of thing. This was on a friend of theirs' balcony in San Francisco, and the colors and the lemons and the yellow flowers, and everybody's wearing blue and yellow. This was on, I think, for their first album.
Yeah, it's like kind of Stanley Kubrick, kind of IKEA.
And again, Roddy knows exactly what he wants, and he's always right.
Sean?
Chandelier and glue, and this was for them.
Can you tell people about Glue and Chandelier? I mean, I think there's a documentary about Sean that came out, right? And I think there's, and then Kid Congo Powers wrote a song about him kind of recently, but he was like a real fixture in LA. Punk.
Yeah, I just knew Chandelier from Friends of Friends, and always seeing him at every show. He was always there. Even in San Francisco, I would run into him. He was just like on the scene. If something was happening, he was there.
Yes.
And
Super early adapter of the punk and drag confluence.
yeah, and also a lovely person, charming, great to work with. Showed up a little late sometimes, but other than that, I cannot fault Chandelier.
Another Jabberjaw regular. The Zeros.
The Zeros. This was another, when I was a kid in San Francisco, one of my favorite bands to see, punk rock, like at the Motörhead or whatever. I would go all the way to Oakland to see the Zeros. They're great. So when I got a chance, they asked, I'm trying to remember, maybe Bill Bartell asked me to do these photos. I believe this was for Bill Bartell, but I was like, oh yeah, please, I would love to do that.
Yeah. Does everyone here know who the Zeros are? Yeah. Yeah, that Bomp 7-inch, right, with Don't Push Me Around and Wimp, and then Elvez would come out of it. Yeah, just super important punk rock band.
It is not. It is on a medium format camera. So even though it's a standard size lens, it gives more of a medium. It gives more of a wide angle feel. Like more of a standard lens on a camera like this would be a longer lens. If that helps at all, if that makes any sense.
I'm not going to gossip here on stage, but we were talking about how this shot is cool because like there's a dividing line in the middle, and you can tell like Elvez and Hector have like their haircuts belie the difference
Exactly.
in where they're both going to go. The directions they're headed.
Exactly.
But hopefully they'll get back together in time for when the documentary comes out. I'd like to see all four of them.
That would be a wise move. I hope they get it together. This is the Specials in Philadelphia in 1981.
Jerry Dammers still
Yeah.
in the band.
Yeah, well, maybe a day or two before they broke up. They played an East Coast tour of the U.S. I think their last show was the next night in Boston.
So what were you doing in Philly shooting the Specials?
I was friends with Horace, the bass player, and had been since like literally 1979 or 80. maybe. And we kept in touch, and we'd been friends, and like he would come visit in San Francisco, and I would go stay with him and his wife in Coventry. So we had kept up, you know, somebody I had gone up to when I was a teenager and go, would you talk to me for my fanzine, mister? Kind of thing. And then we hit it off, and we were friends. And anyway, so I was in New York in 1981, and the Specials were playing the East Coast tour, and they invited me to come along, so I got to ride on the bus and photograph every show. But this was from the back of the stage at this massive outdoor festival. This was like the Police and the Go-Go's and the Specials and I don't know who all else. Yeah. But again, not the usual rock shot, so that's why this one is my favorite.
I would like to see like a whole zine of just Specials photos from that trip. I mean, they were probably really sad though. Maybe I don't need to see those.
The photos aren't sad, but sitting on the bus with them all, you could tell there was a lot of tension, and they were not the best of, it was not the best of times. But anyway, I think I was there for like comic relief to like.
I love how you and Horace met through zines and music, but then later on, now you're both painters.
Yeah.
And like you're in touch and communicate and help each other, and I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, him and his wife Claire, they're both, again, lovely people and great friends, and he's another person that keeps on going. Whether it's because he's in some big rock band touring the world, or he's just playing in a club or a pub, or he's making his paintings, or he's just constantly producing and contributing and making things.
Yeah, she introduced him to my family, and he's as lovely as that. It's all true.
Yeah.
This is the sexy Sparks picture.
This was shared, my friend Lynn shared this on a Sparks fan page on Facebook or something the other day, and people were like, oh my God, you can see his nipples. Oh, which I thought was really funny. But
wait, is that Anthony Kiedis? No, wait, it's Sparks.
This was a show, they played, I think, 3 nights at the Whiskey, maybe 2 or 3 nights. And this was the end of the last night, I believe, and it was the encore, and they played the encore, and then they went off, and then the audience just wouldn't leave, and they kept clapping, and encore, and so they came back out, and I think the joke was that Ron had already got into the shower. He came out, he said, God, he's wearing a towel, and his hair's all wet. So I think the idea, I don't even know if they have showers at the Whiskey, but the idea was that he'd already gotten into the shower and they had to come back out. Oh, all right, one more. But he had already started bathing. So that's why he's all wet and has no shirt.
So at the Whiskey, there's no photo pit or anything. You're like just against the front row here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all the shows, it looks like you're just in front. You got there at noon. Is that?
Exactly. Or at least get there early enough to elbow everybody else out of the way. If you can get a hold of the front of the stage, you're good. If you have something to hold on to, it's hard to dislodge you. So if you can get in there early and hold on.
Well, I did that anyway, but after COVID, now I feel like that's a really, really good place to be also, because like there's more air in front of you. Like you're not breathing other people's stuff as much. So there's that too.
Yeah, I think that was something somebody needs to, I should write the article about like crowd etiquette and tips and tricks and like what to do when or how to get the spot you want in the front. Like
It should be, this book is for people 6 feet and under.
Exactly. I used to carry a lunchbox like a metal lunchbox as a purse, and I would put it on the ground and stand on it. So I was this much taller. Little things like that help. Sorry, I'm learning how to drive this thing. This is no doubt just before they became massive. They were recording a video at Raleigh Studios, maybe? The studio that used to be Desilu when Lucy and Ricky owned it, I think, or I think they owned it. Yeah, Desilu. Anyway.
that's why you went, because you wanted to go to Lucy's
really was.
studio. Is that?
And if I'm going to nerd out, there was, they have marked parking spaces for people. Like, this is my parking space. Anne V. Coates, who's the editor of Lawrence in Arabia, that David Lean film. I saw her parking brick on the ground. I was like, oh my God. But that's super nerdy detail. But anyway, again, I love this picture, and they're all so happy to be
Yeah,
here.
they were a really fun live band at that point. Like, I think I saw them open for Big Drill Car in like some small club in Orange County around then.
Yeah, and this was for BAM magazine also. And
Yay, Frank.
She's great to work with too.
How did you meet Frank?
It's been so long. Many, many friends of friends. I'm trying to remember. That would take me a while to figure that out. I don't make everyone. Red Cross? Thank you. I gotta remember.
Well, she opened for Red Cross at the Variety Arts Center, I remember. But I'm sure they go way back, even way before that.
Oh my God. Okay. Do we have? What time is it? Frank opened those Sparks shows at the Whiskey. That's the first time I ever saw Frank perform. I didn't know Frank. And then I remember the person came out. Okay, everybody, now's our next. Blah, blah, blah. It's Frank. And I thought Frank, F-R-A-N-K. And then Frank, P-H, comes out. And I was like, wait a minute. Okay. And then I was like, oh my God, Frank is amazing. Frank played a great set, but that was the first time I'd ever seen Frank, was at that same Sparks show where Ron had taken a shower.
Yeah, if you're out there and you don't know the all-American Jewish lesbian folk singer, you need Frank in your life. We need more Frank in this universe, especially now. But this photo is great. What was it for? Just for fun?
For Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just a great composition, and the shoelaces and the turn-ups and everything.
Yeah, I like the shoelace. They remind me of her current art, where she does the sewing and stuff. So to see those loose threads is cool. It's foreshadowing, I guess. Back to the LA Zoo, the old zoo.
Yeah, this is that same LA zoo, old zoo, abandoned part of the zoo, in the same cage that I photographed Ozzy Motley at, but, with a different purpose.
This would be the Muffs for everyone out there.
Yeah, this is the Muffs for their first album.
When there was still a four-piece with Chris Crass and Melanie.
And it was raining that day. It was really cold and raining and muddy. We had to climb up the side of the trail in the mud, and they were not whiny or complainy, or they were, again, fun to work with. And
you did a couple. Okay, you did the first album. You did a Sympathy 7-inch. Maybe like an Australian one and a Sub Pop one. You did a bunch of stuff for the Muffs.
And BAM magazine also.
They must have been fun to work with.
They were, yeah. And again, happy to be there and not. Yeah, some people don't want to take pictures and they let you know it and they won't.
Although at the end of each of their shows, they would often fight. Probably not the case at a photo shoot. More Muffs.
Yeah, more Muffs, more color. This is cross-process color, which means you take, say, a negative film, color negative, but you run it through color slide chemistry, which shifts the colors and makes it very contrasty and makes everybody's skin look great. This was, again, one of like a special effect that you could do in the camera. This is before Photoshop was a thing. So if you wanted to try to get something to look different or unique or whatever, this would be something. And they would call it, did you do this in camera? Like, yeah, I used this kind of film and this kind of processing and so on. And again, they were lovely to work with. And Red Cross.
Is this the same apartment where you shot Pat?
Yeah, same living room. on Hoover. Steve was my roommate at the time at this apartment. It was kind of a flat. It was a big place. But we did lots of photos, Red Cross photos, Muffs photos, L7, Pat Smear, Jane Weedland from the Go-Go's for BAM magazine in this living room because we could just slide the couch out of the way, basically. And it's big enough, and it was a big enough room to set up photo backdrops if you needed to. But I liked just using the floor and the wall. This one has the cable wire sticking out of the wall over by Eddie, too. And I love leaving that kind of thing so that you might think, oh, they should airbrush it out or whatever, but no. I like showing that it is just the living room. Like you can make, a really amazing image just in your living room.
Yeah, and the space in the foreground is really cool, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're in the same room with them, sitting on the floor facing them or something.
Exactly. And again, trying to get like a different perspective instead of just the same old straight-on rock shot every time,
Did they use many of your photos in the documentary, the Red Cross movie
They
that's
did.
out? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly how many, but they did. Yeah.
I love that Vicki does not go to a lot of concerts because they're too late. But Red Cross, Vicki will stay up past her bedtime.
Yeah. There's like this many bands that I'll stay up late for now. But, and I'll just say, I showed up to everything for like 30 years. So I was there. I did my time. I showed up.
And you recently flew to Japan to see Cheap Trick at Budokan, so it's not like you're afraid to make sacrifices.
That had to be done. Yeah, that was like, my friends were in Japan, and they called me, they're like, oh, Cheap Trick's playing. And I was like, oh, that's cool. At Budokan. I was like, what? This is like last year. I was like, what? Get me a T-shirt. And they're like, no, we got you a ticket. So, yeah, I had to go, and it was amazing. It was everything that you would want it to be if you were a massive Cheap Trick fan.
I don't think Red Cross will mind you talking about Cheap Trick during their slide.
Oh, yes.
I think they're good with it.
Okay. Exactly, right? Anyway, and that's another Red Cross, and this is, again, cross-processed.
So there's at least like 2 or 3 7-inches I have with your art. But then there's also the Third Eye record that has your paintings in the background, which I think is great. Well, we'll talk about her painting towards the end of this. We got to get through. It's already 3:30.
Is it really?
Yeah, let's keep moving.
Okay, well, we're almost done.
Oh, perfect. I mean,
Thank you.
and more Red Cross. I think they win. Three slides. They beat the undertones.
That's true, yeah. I got to choose who I wanted to put in and how many pictures. So maybe that tells.
But you made some hard decisions. I saw
did.
the other.
I'm sorry, Motörhead.
Yes.
Motörhead got edited out.
And the Jam.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
But if the library wants us back,
Exactly.
just saying.
Oh, you want
Okay,
Motörhead?
let's keep going. Oh,
Okay.
L7.
This is L7 at the Reading Festival in the UK.
So this is the famous one where they went with Nirvana and Red Cross. But L7 had a moment.
Yeah, this is, and I guess it's massive it was on MTV every half hour for a while, but people were drunk and throwing mud and crap at L7 when they played, so Danita took out her tampon and flung it into the audience.
But this is the press conference before.
Right before. And you can just look at Jennifer Finch and go, wow, look at that mood. They were crabby and tired and exhausted, and they looked just like they were at the end of their rope. So I think that's what got Danita inspired to maybe.
Man, they were like the pride of LA then, though.
Oh,
like
yeah.
having that
Oh,
EP
yeah.
on Sub Pop, like an LA band, like
Yeah.
to be on Slash and
Yeah.
Sub Pop, like
Yeah.
that's cool.
And I
They were
don't want
so
to make
great.
it sound like people in the crowd loved them. Were getting a huge response, but drunk people at festivals throw all kind of crap at each other and everywhere, and it wasn't like the crowd turned on them. It was just that was what was happening down on the crowd.
They like to have fun at European festivals. Like it's different.
And that's another shot of L7.
Not afraid to pose.
No, they give you everything you need to get a great photograph every time.
What a great band.
You don't have to coax it out of them. They're just serving it for you. Sorry, it's my driving. L7.
Wow,
I'm
right on
sorry.
schedule.
L7 to Shonen Knife.
Yeah.
And this was I was so honored to be able to do this. When they first came to LA and didn't really know anybody, and I just said, let's do some photos and make you look like a 60s girl group. And yeah.
Still friends to this day.
Yeah, still friends.
Yeah, I remember when the Linda Lindas went to Osaka. I'm like, Vicki, we want to invite Shonen Knife. Can you help us get in touch? Yeah. And then Vicki and Red Cross, they started all these texts, and then sure enough, Naoko and Atsuko, they came to a show, and we're like, wow, this is the dream, to go to Osaka and hang out with Shonen Knife. Like, it's the greatest. Like, what could be cooler than that? Mm-hmm. But they, those are wigs, you said?
Yeah, because to give it more of like a 60s girl group, like just more extra hair.
And is it Atsuko that makes the costumes? Is that right? Or
yeah, Atsuko, she designs and sews all their outfits still.
Yeah, incredible. I don't know, maybe we should take some questions before we have time?
Martin, that's my job.
That was a hint.
No, I was waiting. I
Wink,
wanted
wink,
wanted you to talk about Shonen Knife.
Oh.
My good friends.
We could talk more about Shonen Knife.
Yeah, no, I wanted to do.
I think we were just trying to hurry because it's kind of.
Yeah, but I wanted to just let everybody know that about these URLs on the last slide. So for those of you who would like, is that Jim Laspiza? Hey, Jim. I'm so glad you're here. For those of you who'd like to browse the collection of LAPL Photo Collections archive, not everything is online, but we're getting to it. That's part of my job, is to get stuff up there as quickly as possible. But there are about 150,000 digitized images of the history of Los Angeles and in all of its glory and all of its warts and all, and that can be found at tessa.lapl.org. And you don't need a library card to access it, so have fun browsing it. And for Carissa's project, it's kind of hard to read, but Carissa, are you at a microphone right now? Could you read your URL?
So it's the Echo Park Film Collective. It's just www.epfccollective.org.
Yeah, sorry, the lights are needed for the recording of this, so that's why it's a little hard to see, but then you'll be able to watch the video when it is uploaded, so this is great to have Vicki and Martin visible, so that's good. And again, VickiBerndt.com. Vicki Berndt with a D, BERNDT.com for everything about Vicki Berndt and her Etsy merchandise, everything that she's doing, and you can keep in touch with her by logging onto her site. And then I was going to ask, if you guys don't mind, I really want to get a photo of all of you. So, because this is so awesome. Let me get a photo of everyone. And now we're going to open it up to Q&A from the audience. Oh, and then we're going to all meet in the lobby because we close up at 4. So we're all going to be reconvening in the lobby after Q&A. So get your questions ready. Coming around with a microphone. So here comes Carissa to take your question.
Do you have any Bill Bartell pics or stories? He was an interesting guy.
Yeah, I have plenty of both. Oh, sorry, I have plenty of both photos and stories. I did photos for him for records that he was putting out, pictures of him or pictures of bands he was working with. I feel like he was the one that had arranged for Shona Knife to come to my studio. I think back in those days, he was the person that I talked to arrange that. I believe he brought them there. I think Dave Markey was there too that day. I think I would have to stop and think if there was a particular photo story with Bill Bartell. I can't really remember anything right off the top of my head, but he used me a lot as a photographer and brought lots of great bands to me to photograph.
Yeah. If anyone out there is hungry for more Bill Bartell stories, go find the documentary that Dave Markey made.
Any other questions? Raise your hand. Questions for Vicki? Is it okay that I say that we have some of these wonderful subjects here in the audience today? If that's okay, Frank, I can say Frank is here and Melanie from the Muffs is here.
What?
So,
No way.
That's amazing. I can't really see.
I didn't see anyone out there, did you?
Vicki, you're amazing. And
Thank
so is Martin, but love you, Vicki. Can you talk a little bit about the work you're doing now? And because it's so incredible.
Oh,
And that- yeah, go on.
thank you very much. Yeah, mostly I'm painting now, painting portraits of like pop culture icons, rather than photography. I don't do photography anymore. So I do painting, I do artwork. I have an Etsy shop where some of the pop culture icons are available as rosaries or votive candles, sort of taking the idol worship thing one step further. Still just being an ultra fan of whoever I'm a fan of, but now with painting rather than photography.
Oh, can we talk a little bit more about you, how you stopped, why you stopped shooting photos?
Yeah, well, I've been doing it for a long time. It wasn't as much fun as it had been. When it's all your friends showing up and you're having a great day working with your friends, that's one thing. But when it's more of a job, then it's kind of more hit and miss whether or not you're going to work with great people or just jerks. And you still have to do a good job, and it wasn't as much fun. It was a lot of work hauling equipment around, and yeah, I kind of had lost some enthusiasm. Sitting at home by myself painting is so much easier, and I'm in charge. It's just me. Nobody argues or shows up late or yeah.
And when did you pick up painting, or is that something you were always dabbling in?
I had started painting in high school. I have my first ever painting in high school. I mean, I won't go on at length about it, but I did a portrait of Patti Smith, second period drawing and painting class in high school. And I did this big painting of her, and she was doing a book signing in 1978. So I cut school, I took this painting that I had made, got her to autograph it at this book signing in Dalton Books. And like oh, David Cassidy, hi. Hey, Tawny. Hi.
is that Tawny Katane? No, Tawny Featherston.
The other Tawny.
Tawny from Jabberjaw, right? Pick me up. Pick me up. Tawny from Pick Me Up.
Nice.
Thank you for bringing the handy visual reference. Thank you. Yeah, I was painting on jackets for a long time for people, too. Again, their favorite, their idols, their icons, and painting it on the back of jackets for people. So, again, that same fan thing, paying tribute, worship, all of the above still.
Yeah, I hope that, and I'm not trying to close, I'm just saying that what I think is really cool about Vicki's story is that, yeah, saw the Sex Pistols. She was in a cool punk band, but then she quit because it wasn't fun for her. And then she started taking photos, and that was cool because she got to support the scene and friends and cool music. And then that became a drag when it became, more of a business. And then she's doing art for fun. And I feel like being punk, it's not about singing in a band or being on stage, but it's doing all these changes and just keep shifting and doing what's fun instead of doing what's burning her out, and still contributing to this scene and community all the way through. And look, like, here we are at the library talking about Vicki today. Like, how cool is
Right.
that? Instead of some CEO talking about how they became a millionaire, we have Vicki talking about making cool, creative stuff and having fun with your friends, for decades. And that's the goal that people should have these days, not how to skim money off other people by making an app that sells nothing.
Exactly.
This is the sort of stuff that we should be promoting and encouraging kids of all ages, to be pursuing. Just doing stuff you love with people you love.
Excuse me.
Okay, next question, sorry.
I'd like to tell a Vicki story. When we were doing the Beano fanzine, it was the psychedelic era Cramps lineup, Congo, amazing stuff. They wanted to do a fun interview after the show. So we all sat down trying to do a fun interview, and they've got some local ne'er-do-well shoveling dope up their nose. And the whole thing went off the rails, and I freaked out. I was just a kid. Vicki really mentored me. And Vicki could see that it was a nightmare. And so she jumps up, and she says, "Well, what are you guys selling anyway? Black jeans and black hair dye?" And it got a lot more interesting after that. It was like a shouting match for the next 10, 15 minutes. And of course, we all became friends.
Yeah, I don't think people talk to them like that. Exactly. I probably scared them. But anyway.
Wow, you scared the Cramps?
I don't know. Or I gave them pause to stop and think about how they were comporting themselves, maybe. Open it that way.
Any other
Anyway,
questions
thank you for telling that.
from the audience? Otherwise, we're all going to meet in the lobby and we can all hang out with Vicki and Martin.
I have one more question.
Oh.
I heard you're working on a zine.
Yeah, with my friends Martin and Wendy. We're gonna, because there's been such a good response and interest to these photos, we're gonna put together something and publish it. And yeah.
Yeah, they've been sitting in awesome plastic tubs forever, but now that they're all scanned and organized, like, we should do something with them, right?
Yeah, they're scanned and digitized and organized, and so now, having to do this by a certain date and get it all ready, now I have all this to work with to actually do something else with it.
So, well, the zine is what you give to the publishers so they can make a book on their dime. But the best thing is that it's given me a chance to hang out with Vicki more these last couple of months. We've been hanging out a lot. She's gonna paint a jacket for me too. And hopefully we'll...
Joey Ramone.
So hopefully we'll see you again when there's a zine or art show or something down the road. And I'll wear my new jacket.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Martin and Vicki.
Thank you.
We'll see you all in the lobby. Come on out to the lobby and we'll all hang out.